what I'm going to talk about today, we talk about the enrollment. Well, there's a variety of things that we think about when we talk about an enrollment. The number one thing to me is, we all jump to a presentation. I need to be a good presenter. I got to have a great presentation, and you should, and we should have a good presentation. And there's great things that we can do to hone in on our presentation skills. Videotape yourself. You'll find out you have more idiosyncrasies than you know when you have to look at yourself. But honestly, and all sincerity, an enrollment is not about a great presentation. An enrollment is about effective communication. And for those of you who are just in the last class, it doesn't matter what your service or product does if they don't understand how it directly applies to them. That's why everybody says to me, there's so many people out there, they're so good, they're great marketers. They put these great pieces together, and I love people like that. I have the creative mind, but I can't get it on paper. I can't draw a stick man without the assistance of a ruler, so I'm pretty pathetic in that department, I can tell you, as far as artistic. But what I love is the people that have that ability can do it. But I can tell you, I use some of the simplest things ever. And I always tell people, they'll say, I want to say it like this, or I want to do it like this, or I want to communicate like this. And it's like, you know what? It's not about all the services that this plan is. It's about connecting with you, and connecting with you, and connecting with you, and connecting with you when we're doing that. And what does that mean? Well, I still think my little have you ever sheet is the most valuable thing. Katie, I don't even know if you still use one. But they used to have it in the brochure, and they don't have it in the brochure anymore. So I have this simple sheet that just says, have you ever? You guys have a copy of it in front of you. Have you ever? And we'll go through it. Updated your will lately? Have you ever had questions about your mortgage? Have you ever? That's always in front. Because I think until you can articulate the need, then it doesn't really matter what the value is, because they're not going to see it. Okay? So what we're going to talk about today in enrollment is number one, when I talk about an introduction, how important an introduction is. I'll give you a sample of an introduction and share with you how I make sure that that company or that person is going to be introducing me properly. They can make or break the success of an enrollment. For those of you, how many in here would say half of your Legal Shield business is group business? Half of it or more. Okay, so we got some seasoned people in here. How many people in here have never opened a group? They're just getting started in that arena. Oh, great. So we got a real mixed bag here today. So the importance of the little nuances of things is not about just how great of a presenter you are. I love what John Hoffman said in an earlier session today. He even will purposely, say something like a question and kind of fumble around because he doesn't want to come off like some slick salesperson. And I really appreciated that because we really like people to be real. And we all, we're not these robotic, and especially if you do it a lot, like a lot of the producers that we do a lot of presentations, you got to be careful not to fall into that where you're just saying something because you have it so ingrained in your head. So I think first and foremost, what we're going to cover here today, we're talking about the importance of an introduction. We're going to talk about proper materials. I mean, there's great materials out there. We want to make sure that we're using the right things. Now, I'm one of those that uses really simple stuff. There's a lot of great things you can use out there in your employee packets, but I'm pretty simple. I'm just plain Jane, so I'll tell you what I use, and then we can go from there. We're going to talk about just a couple of meeting logistics as far as room setup, and then we're going to talk about the presentation itself. I'm going to actually do an enrollment in here today. For those of you that want to see an enrollment, you're actually going to see one today, as if you were my employees. Too bad you all have legal plans, so none of you can actually sign up. It's a bummer for me. Even though it is the last class of the day and you're all tired and you had lunch and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like, just got to get out of this class, I still think I could get you to sign up if you didn't have your legal plan. And then collecting paperwork, really that's just a matter of, there's a few things that we can do that can ensure the success, or that can ensure a higher success in that area. And then working with other associates. If we get time, I want to spend a little bit of time on that. I actually work with a lot of associates all across the country. I always have. Kind of started out in the group arena, so I would just grab other people that really were experts in what they did, and we've worked on a lot of groups across the country together and come up with something called a joint enrollment agreement. If any of you wants a copy of it, you're welcome to email me. I'll give you a copy of that. But I think the importance is when you're working with other associates, how we work the room together, that we're all, the one band, one sound that Tony talks about, and saying the same thing so that our level of professionalism is succinct across the nation, okay? All right, so that's what we're going to cover in here today. All right, materials. This is pretty simple. Promotional flyers. I did a lot on this on the last segment, so I'm not going to be redundant because some of you were in my last hour. God bless you. For those of you that are 2 hours of Lisa Schiller, holy cow. Woo! I should have a prize for that. I should just, there's going to be a T-shirt at the end that says, I endured 2 hours of Lisa Schiller. But I think one of the things that we talked about in the last meeting was the difference of a required meeting and a voluntary meeting. Two very different things. You got the required meeting is tagging on, they're communicating. Maybe you can send a little, they have something in place already, and then you got that voluntary meeting where you've got to get people in the room, because guess what? It doesn't matter how good your presentation is, nobody's here, right? So we'll just touch on that a little bit with the meeting flyers. Now, in your packet, and these are all I just did them in black and white, nothing fancy, but in your packet, you have the infamous have you ever. Now, there's two ways that I use this. One is for a voluntary meeting where they don't know what it is, and the other one is for a meeting where they do know what it is. And I have two schools of thought for that, so I'm just going to share that with you for what it's worth. If I'm in a place, as a matter of fact, I just did one. It was a multiple location group, and I really just wanted them to come out to a meeting. And sometimes, if they have a lot of information in front of them with Legal Shield, they're going to have a preconceived notion of what it is, right? They're going to say, legal anything? What's the first thing people usually say? I don't need it. I don't need an attorney. I've never used an attorney. I'm 20, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60. I've never used an attorney. Why would I pay for one now, right? So the flyer that you have in front of you, your first handout there, it says ABC employees have you ever. This is something that I use on everything. I use my have you ever. There's nothing that denotes who I am, the company, or anything. It just says, have you ever? And there's a list of them, right? Wanted to know your options for loan modifications, been pursued by collection agency, moving traffic violation, wanted to update your will, consumer challenges, denied insurance claims, warranty issues, identity theft, all of those types of things. I put them in there. Why? When they walk in, this is something that I want them to see. If I'm going to promote a meeting, I'll have them email it out. Yes, I have them post it in the bathrooms. I specifically asked for the bathrooms. I know everyone is going to go there at some point in that company. Email it out if they can, as well as posting it in like a cafeteria or something like that. So what does this say to them? It just makes them ask some questions and then join me for coffee and donuts, or join me for lunch, or join me for whatever. Or if I'm doing a raffle item or something like that. So that's what I use when it's a voluntary meeting. They don't know what it is. I don't want a preconceived notion. I just want to think about it and show up for my meeting and either give something away or have some sort of food or refreshment. Does that make sense? So that's what's in your packet. What I use in my actual employee packet, I just have my have you ever, and I put all my information on it. I have the Legal Shield logo, got all my information on it, etc. So two different things for two different reasons, and that's what the promotional flyers really is about. The employee packets, what do I use? Well, there's several group producers in here, so I'm going to get your feedback on this as well, but I'll tell you what I use. When they come in, they have the packet. My packet consists of three things. The have you ever that's staring them in the face. There's no getting around it. That's what they're looking at. Behind that is a plan detail sheet. You can pull the one from the back office if you like, and that's where it's got the plan, the details, the pricing right on it, and an application. Three things. Sometimes I'll even have the brochures. Sometimes I put the brochures in the temporary member kits. Sometimes I'll have the brochure attached to it. And the reason why I'm telling you this is people always ask me, what do you put in your employee packet? What I have found over the years, this is just me. Some people put these beautiful packets together, and I love that. But I'm pretty simple, and it's just me. I want the basics there. What I don't want to create is while I'm talking to you about the service, I don't want you reading a bunch of collateral. That's my reason behind it. You can have the collateral. Maybe I'll have it at a back table. Maybe I'll put it in their temporary membership kit. But really, what I want them to have is the have you ever sheet. They got a plan detail sheet, and they got an application. It's pretty simple. And an ink pen. Don't forget that. Okay? That's what's in my employee packet. Other thing as far as materials that we're going to talk that we're going to use is, how many of you use the temporary member kits? Absolutely. They're getting a membership. You need something of value to place in their hand. Obviously, the membership itself is. But remember, when you're doing employee presentations, their spouse isn't there. It's awesome for them to have something to take home. I put a little welcome letter in there. Again, I want to make sure they have my information. The number to the law firm is in there. And then the will packet. I explained to them how to use this. But again, making sure that we're using the right materials and investing in our businesses and making sure we're taking care of the company image and using the appropriate materials. Now, just a little thing. Jim, I don't know if there's a marker in here, though. I don't think there's a marker in the room. I could actually just talk about it. You do? Well, look at this. All right, let's give them a hand. That's awesome. That's right. Let's make it. That's awesome. That's perfect. This is just a little something that, again, I'm just going to spend a few minutes on this, and then we're actually going to go right into the presentation. But for logistics, as far as a room setup, a couple of things that has been helpful, and this is going to be terrible. I have the worst writing in the world. I told you I can't do a stick man without a ruler, so I'm really bad. When you come into a group, again, if you were in the logistical part of the meeting, you know what kind of room you're going to go into. Is it going to be round tables? Is it going to be classroom? Are you going to be in the middle of a plant? Are you going to be at ground zero at an excavating company with your hard hat on? And that was my first group. My hard hat on and put my Jeep in four-wheel drive to get to my first group. Whatever your environment is, knowing that environment. But if you're going in and you've got tables, for example, let's say they're round tables. Now, if you've got round tables, and some of you in the back hopefully can see this, okay? And I'm going to be, let's say, down here. This is me. Oh, wait, I made my head a round table. But anyways, this is me. It's the end of the day. What I want to do is, employees are all going to sit and talk to each other. They're going to have their back to you. So what I want to do is I want to place packets on these places so that they are going to be, pretty simple, facing me. Or get an employee and enlist them in helping you pass that out so that they're going to be facing you. Just a few little things. Obviously, if you have that situation, you can do that. Now, if you're doing a U-shaped or something like this, again, or even if it's squared in or whatever, what are they going to? And they're going to be as far away from you as possible, right? Because y'all sat in the back of the room, right? When you first come in, that's the first seats that were taken to the back of the room. I get it. I understand. But if I want to talk to them and I'm here, I'm going to put the packets, again, I'm going to put the packets here. So they're all in this area. And I'm going to move myself up to where I'm here. It's just a more intimate feel. I'm going to be there where I'm talking now. If they're, again, you want to make sure that you're doing that. Same thing with any type of a setup you have. Now, if you're doing open enrollment and you're behind a bunch of vendors and they've got the room set up a certain way, please don't go in and start rearranging the furniture. That would not be a good idea. But you get my point there. And there's just a couple of things that you can do that will help, making sure that they have access to you, that they can see you. Jim, I don't actually need that anymore. Thank you. I'm going to make sure you get your marker back. This is a great marker. Wow. Awesome. Introduction. Now, in your packet, the very last page in your packet says an introduction. This means an introduction by the employer. Now, as I said in the last class, I email this out to the person that's going to be introducing me. If you have done what we need to do at the decision maker appointment, then the company already sees the value in this. If we've really done the job that we need to do, they see the value to the company, not just as great service for our employees. They see the value to the company, how it's going to save their bottom line, absenteeism, people are stressing out. Now they've got professional companies to go to, and they don't have to worry about it. So if they see that, they're going to have a good, do I really have to compete with this? Really? Oh, my God. Is that Cliff? Was that Mr. Malloy next door? What? Mr. Malloy? Did I get it? Did I get it? I'm just okay. I digress. Okay, what was I talking about? Introduction. How critical a good introduction is. Oh, it's great. She's videotaping. Introduction. How important it is. So I will get that over to them so that they have that. It's important that they do that because they see the buy-in. Introduction can make or break it. Y'all have been there, those of you who've done group business, where somebody comes in and says, hey, there's this legal thing in there, and they walk out the back of the door, or this is identity theft thing, or whatever it might be. So I don't take that chance. I email it to them. I don't want to say anything that they haven't said. If they've said, yes, I'm going to get this plan, great, then it's in my enrollment, and I give that to them for that introduction so that they give a good, clean introduction. I take a copy with me, and if for some reason nobody's there and I'm on my own, I'll have an employee say, hey, can you give me a hand here? And they'll get up and they'll read it for me. So I always have that with me. And we're going to cover the presentation and then handling objections. I think that's the right order. So now we have on video me making fun of Mr. Malloy. This is great. All right, opening statement. This is something for those of you, how many of you attended the B2B classes in Dallas last year? Okay, so some of you know what I'm talking about, an opening statement. Boy, I use this in the decision maker process. I use this in meetings that I go to. I use this in enrollments where I just have an impactful opening statement. So you have a copy of mine there in front of you. We're actually going to have you take a look at that. In this particular one, pretty simple. Good morning, my name is, and I'm an independent associate with Legal Shield. I'm excited to share with you 2 new voluntary benefits that your Legal Shield and Identity Theft Shield that your company is seeing great value in. Okay, because the company saw value and you're not going to be standing there. Our plans are designed to help you save money, make better decisions for your family, and have peace of mind. Okay, basically we want to worry less and live more. So as members, you'll be able to take advantage of these valuable services actually effective immediately today, simply by filling out an application that I'll be collecting at the end of the presentation. So if you'll take a look at the information in front of you, I'm going to go over these services and how you can benefit from them and how we can enroll. Something that simple. So you can certainly modify that, but I know a lot of people want to know if you have a script. There's just something that you can use that's a little bit practical. On the presentation itself, you got the main components of the presentation. You want to make sure that you obviously have the materials in front of people. Sometimes you're handing it to them as they're coming in the meeting. You might have it out in advance. If you're working with another associate, obviously they've got information, and we're going to cover actually a little bit on working with other associates at the end here. But they've got their packet in front of them. And again, my Have You Ever sheet is always the first thing that they're going to see so they can start establishing value. So what we'll do now, just for sake of time, I'm going to go through an actual enrollment as if you were my employees. And this would be what I would consider my longest version. Okay? I think everybody should be prepared with the 20-minute presentation, 15, 10, 5, and if you only have time to introduce yourself at an employee fair. You need to have that in. Why is that? For those of you that have been in the business, you've seen it, where you're supposed to have 20 minutes. By the time you got there, they told you 5. So you're panicking because you don't know what to say in 5 minutes. So really, what do you say in 5 minutes or less? You want to introduce yourself. You want to hit a couple of Have You Evers. If you're like me and you've gone through life, you've had your share of challenges. Maybe you've had a traffic ticket. You don't have a current will. Those types of things. What our services allow you to do is have access to top-rated attorneys and not have to worry about the monthly fee. So we can have these issues taken care of. So there's just those little things that you can do and just put that in there in that 5 minutes. I said in the last class, if somebody says to me, we don't have any time, I will ask if I'm allowed to introduce myself. Now, why do I do that? Because if I'm allowed to introduce myself, I can at least take 15 to 30 seconds and say, hello, hey, just wanted to meet you all. I'm happy to be here today to let you know that my table's in the back. My name's Lisa Schiller. I'm here with Legal Shield and Identity Theft Shield. Comprehensive product for taking care of those little matters in your life, like whether it's wanting a document reviewed or you've got questions, traffic ticket, wanted to finally get that will done, and you're very concerned or been a victim of identity theft, just see me in the back of the room. We have packets back there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Something that simple, if you just ask for an introduction, will at least have people coming by and spark some kind of an interest. And again, it always comes back to asking questions, right? We hear that a lot today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. You guys are going to be my company. Bummed that you already have the legal plan, but that's all right. And then at the end of this, I'm going to give opportunity for you all to fire off some objections to me. All right, I know that's a really bold thing to do. So, all right, I'm going to step down here. That's right. That's right. Are you picking that? You picking up? All right. So, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me try that again. Good afternoon. Good. Try that again. Good. What am I too close to? Melissa? Good afternoon, everyone. How's that? Is that better? Good afternoon, everyone. My name. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Big over here for allowing me to come in today to share with you on your lunch break today 2 very, very valuable services. Legal Shield and Identity Theft Shield. I know many of you are already thinking, boy, legal. I've never really used an attorney before. So if you just take a look at this sheet in front of you, really, if you guys would all just pull this out. Just got some questions here. Just want to ask you. You know, all of us make decisions every year, you know, professionally and financially and personally. We make decisions in our life. They might be small matters. They might be large matters. If you take a look at this, we've ever wanted updated our will. We've had challenges as consumers, right? Try to take back the defective product and someone's not honoring a warranty. Oh, how about the free tooth whitening trial that you got online and now you're being charged for it? Moving traffic violation. You have kids in college. Drive like teenagers, or you drive like a teenager, or you have teenage drivers. Those types of things were a benefit of having an attorney would be great, but we never really thought about it because, quite frankly, at $250 an hour, it's not showing up on our radar screen, right? That's really why we don't use them. And how about identity theft, the #1 crime in our country? All of us being concerned about it, and what are we going to do about that? So what we're going to do today is cover these two services for you. Now, I will tell you this. Our legal plan is $3.68 a week. And while that's not a lot of money, it's your money. So I want to make sure that you understand how to get the absolute best value out of that, okay? And then also run through how the program works and how you can benefit from it, and then answer any questions you might have. So first and foremost, we want to understand, how does this type of a program work? Well, everybody gets a card just like this as a member, and you'll be able to call directly into the provider law firm in your state where you reside. Now, the great thing about this program is you have nationwide coverage in all areas of the law. So some of us may even have family and friends who are attorneys, which is awesome, but now we have everywhere in the country as well as in all areas of the law available to us. And how does this plan work? Well, it's got your member number there. You call right directly in your law firm. You might just have a question. You might want to do a refinance. You want a contract or document reviewed. You've had a consumer concern. You've had a moving traffic violation. You finally want to get that will updated. You call right into the provider law firm. They will actually just ask the type of area of law it is. They'll have somebody call you back within 8 business hours. You're talking directly with an attorney, top-rated attorney, and not with a paralegal or a junior attorney, anything like that. So it's very powerful. And I know a lot of people want to know, how can you do that for $3.68 a week? Well, it's buying power. Being the firm's largest client, we're able to have great customer service levels as well. And that means that you can have a call back, again, guaranteeing you within 8 hours, which is pretty powerful. So I always want to make sure you have this card with us. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is who's going to be covered in the plan. The plan does cover it for the same 368. It's going to be yourself as a member. It's going to cover your spouse or domestic partner in the same address. It's going to cover your dependent children, never married, up to age 21 if they're living at home, 23 if they're in full-time college. Special needs children are covered for life regardless of their age as long as they're primarily dependent upon you. So that same 368 a week covers the entire family. Okay, so that's important to know. So it's great value there. And really, the one thing I want to make sure that we understand, there's 2 areas of the plan, basically. About 90% of what you and I would use as a member is going to be covered already in your 368 a week. And then about 10% of what we use as member is going to be covered outside of that area under a discounted program. Similar like our medical plans have some co-pays and things like that. So I want to make sure we understand the difference between the two, okay? So first and foremost, I think most importantly, if we could pick up the phone and talk to an attorney as long as we want, as often as we need to, and not receive a bill, would that be of value to you and your family? Okay? So that's one of the first, I think that's the heart and soul of what we do, because having equal justice really isn't equal if we don't have equal access. We can't get to the attorneys to get those questions answered. And I don't care if it's something small or trivial or if it's something more traumatic. We typically don't enlist an attorney at $250 an hour because of the cost associated with it. So if that's all that this plan did for about 52 cents a day, was be able to allow you to have that peace of mind to talk to an attorney so you can make better decisions for your family. You can have peace of mind, and you can save some money for about 52 cents a day. Would that be of value to you and your family? Okay? So that's kind of the heart and soul of what we do so we can get that advice. Also, an unlimited number of documents reviewed, up to 10 pages each. And when you think about it, how many of you, when you bought or leased your last car, had that contract or document reviewed by your attorney? Right? We all buy and lease cars. We buy homes. We do refinances, rent apartments, cell phone contracts, anything of contractual document nature, up to 10 pages each. We know that, I will leave you with this. We know that they're written by attorneys. And we know that they've been reviewed by an attorney, but it wasn't your attorney. So now we can, just like the wealthiest people in our country, we can have an attorney review a document for us and not have to worry about the cost. I do know this. They've saved tens of thousands of dollars for our members just in contract and document review. So we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. Also, unlimited nature are those, you think about the consumer challenges. How many of us have had a problem with an insurance claim, been denied an insurance claim, or a warranty, or a defective product, again, the little consumer challenges that we have. According to the Center for Disease Control, the number one reason why we go to the doctor is stress. So if we can eliminate some of that stress in our lives by having an attorney who will actually write a letter or make a phone call on our behalf, do you think we're going to have a faster response and a better response than if you and I write a letter? So I'll share you a quick story. The first thing I used my own membership, and I've been a member for years, is I had found out that somebody rang up a wireless bill under my Social Security number and someone in another state. I was an early victim of identity theft, but what I didn't know is I had to pay that debt. And by paying that debt, I had to pay it because that's considered my debt, right? For 2.5 years, I tried to get that money back because that was not me. I had never lived in that state, but I couldn't take advantage of the loan without it. When I became a member myself, I called my law firm. They said, well, we can write a letter for you. They fired off a letter to that wireless company. Within 72 hours of receipt of that letter, I got my $1,800 sent back to me. Overnighted. Yes, overnighted. So that's just the power of having an attorney write a letter or having access to an attorney. So please keep in mind that's what they're there for, is to take care of these issues for us in life so we can keep concentrating on our family and our work life. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, I'm talking about a will. I know that the majority, like 8 out of 10 Americans, don't have a current, up-to-date will. I will share this with you. It's not just about assets. It's about our children. If you have children under the age of 18, the state can literally determine what would happen with those children. Right? So why do we take something that's that critical and we don't have it really taken care of? Maybe it's cost. Maybe you don't want to think about it. But let me share with you this. If we don't have a current will and medical directives in place, then we are actually burdening the ones that we love the most at a time that they would be least likely able to handle it. So it's one of the best things that we can do for our families. And the good news is you can walk out of here today and actually have that and get that comprehensive will, medical directives, medical powers of attorney in place. Now, they'll actually do one for your spouse for $20. But here's my challenge to you today as you get your membership packets. If you do it within 60 days, they'll actually waive that $20 procrastination fee, I'm going to call it, right, for getting your spouses done as well. So you can both get those taken care of and advantage of, and you can also change once per calendar year. Now, if you're going to change it once a year, how awesome is that? Especially for those of you who have teenagers, threatening them in and out of the will. You just never know when that's going to come in handy. You can make changes to that, but you literally can make a change to that will. So let's talk about also moving traffic violations. Now, again, we're not illegal shield. I want to stress that. We're not encouraging you to break the law. You do need to be on the road legally. That means we're not robbing a bank. We didn't just steal the car, stalking somebody while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So everybody got that? Now, if you are doing that, well, first of all, if you're doing all that, you're a great multitasker. I will say that. But I will say that the plan will still cover you under that discounted portion if those aren't, if you're not on the road legally, okay? So, but if you're like me, you failed to stop at a red light. My last ticket was not stopping behind the white line at a stop sign. That came with a 3-point ticket and a $200 fine. Typically, what do you do today when you have a ticket? You either pay the points and fines, you watch your insurance rates go up, or you're going to go to court, take time off work, which Mr. Big's not going to like that, taking time off work to have to fight that ticket. This just gives you the best option. You can call the provider law firm. They'll work with an attorney in our network where that ticket was, and their goal is to try to get those points off and fines reduced if they can. So that's what's the power of it. Would you rather have an attorney there or us go by ourselves? So just keep that in mind. Also, something in there that I hope you never have to use. God forbid if you're in an accident, there's a loss of life. This does actually cover you for your legal fees for the duration of that trial, if that's vehicular manslaughter, negligent homicide, something that we don't want to think about, but again, I want you to know that it's there. There's also a bank of hours in there in case you're sued. There are bank of hours in there in case you're audited. If anybody here been audited, it'd be nice to have access to an attorney. Yes, absolutely, for that. And then that discounted portion I'm talking about are things that happens to us maybe once or twice in a lifetime. If you know anybody that's ever gone through a bankruptcy or a divorce, they'd certainly like to save 25% off that bill. I think most importantly, you don't have to worry about searching for a good attorney to take care of you. You already have that within our network, and then not having to pay full price on all matters. There's only one exception to that at all, and that's obviously you can't use it against Mr. Big. He wasn't going to let me in here today with that, no matter how many donuts we bought, right? You can't use it against your employer. But outside of that, feel free to use it for all areas of your life. Very importantly, too, is you have 24/7 emergency access. The other number on this card, now you might think, why would I need 24/7 emergency access to an attorney? Well, I can share with you a couple of things. First of all, if someone shows up on your doorstep to take your children, Child Protective Services, and I'm a foster mom, and the very first girl that I got was taken away from her parents. She was 8 years old, and it was 7 o'clock on a Friday night, and they were completely innocent. Somebody was mad at the family, filed a complaint with the state. They lost their daughter, and that was 10 months because they did not have access to an attorney. So I got real passionate about this service. Now, if that's your 8-year-old daughter, you can understand. Again, if it's your teenager, I'm not sure how you feel about that, but just saying. I can always tell who has teenagers in the room, right? But it is covered 24/7. That's a legal emergency. Also, as a legal emergency is if you are arrested, detained, or served a warrant. And you might think, well, why would that be happening to me? Well, let me ask you this. If you had a moving traffic violation, what's the first thing an officer does? They check your record, right? If there's something on your record, I have a colleague, and I know 2 other people personally. They were stopped for a moving traffic violation. There were warrants out for the arrest, multiple warrants out for the arrest, and they had no knowledge of it. Well, guess what? You're not going to the grocery store at that point. You're going to jail. And the first thing you're going to need access to is an attorney, right? So you're able to call 24/7, get access to an attorney 365 days a year. Now, that last point that I talked about, and then also for if you're in a serious car accident, you can have access to them as well. Those are legal emergencies. But that point I talked about, that's criminal identity theft, right? And when we think about identity theft, we typically think about credit cards, right? Somebody using your driver's license and having warrant out for arrest is literally identity theft. We don't really think about that. What about other forms of identity theft? What about medical identity theft? Mr. Big has provided great benefits for you here at ABC Company. And one of the things I want to caution you, make sure that you protect that information. Because if people are using our medical information, it not only results in a bill that we're receiving that's not ours, but it also results in a change in our medical file. And as our employers are trying to keep our rates down, that's very significant with crime rings getting this information and billing insurance companies. So that's very, very critical. There's lots of forms of identity theft. It being the #1 consumer complaint now to the Federal Trade Commission 13 years in a row. You've got medical identity theft, criminal identity theft, driver's license. You've got utility fraud. This was the largest year ever in our nation's history for fraudulent income tax returns. Someone that I know personally, they had taken their daughter's Social Security number and filed a fraudulent claim. My own CPA, when I went to file my taxes, it already had 3 cases of someone filing under someone else's name. So those are the type just to keep in mind. Now, identity theft, what can you do about it? Certainly, you want to be prudent about how you use your information, but the reality is, folks, we can't stop it from happening because our information is irretrievably out there, right? You think about who has our information, pretty much everybody does. So what we can do about it is this. The company that we brought to you, it's very important that we know this. It's backed by Kroll. They're the world leader in risk management. They have been for 40 years. So just like Legal Shield, been in business 40 years, you have the top, the best that you can in this industry. And they do 3 things for us now. And the plans that you're being offered today, so your company does this for you. Number 1 is it covers yourself and your spouse or domestic partner. The second thing, first thing it does is give you your credit report and score. It does 24/7 monitoring through Experian, and then it also does complete restoration. Now, the monitoring will pick up alerts. So if you've opened an address, if you've opened an account, an address change filed, or a derogatory posted. Those are the things that you want to have alerts on, so it gives you an early heads up. But the most important thing is what happens when you are a victim of identity theft, right? Now, I'm sure if you're a victim of identity theft, you're going to want someone that's going to take care of it for you, not ship you a manual, not just assist you on the phone, but actually do a restoration. We're happy to say with the licensed investigators provided by Kroll, they can do exactly that for you and your family. So it's important to know what is behind this. So if you look at your sheet in front of you, again, I've talked about the $368 a week right there at the bottom. And then also, if you want the identity theft program, it's $299. If you put both of them together, we discount that premium for $598 a week. And you can even add your children to your identity theft program for just $1 more per month. So we can have the entire family protected on both plans there. In front of you, you actually have your application. If you pull that out, what I'd like you to do is take a look at that there and the date. You want to put the date down today. What is today's date? It is August 2nd. All right, thank you so much. That's what you would put down there is August 2nd. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that even though all your benefits go into effect today, there is a waiting period for your moving traffic violations. There's a 15-day waiting period, so be careful with it, driving out there. But you want to make a note there that would be, of course, then August 16th that would go into effect, so that we know that we have a waiting period there. Okay, you're just filling out the highlighted area there. That's your personal information, and electing the standard plan there, the identity theft plan, or if you want both plans. So that lets your payroll department know if there's $368 a week, $598 a week, or $299. Now, what I'm going to be giving you, and I see now you're filling yours out there. And you've got yours there. Okay. What we're going to be giving you is this temporary member packet. Inside the packet here is a letter from me, so you can contact me. You have questions. We have a will questionnaire, folks. I just want to take a second and let you know this is very simple, but very important that you get this filled out. Talk to your attorney. You can fill this out, pop this in the mail in a pre-addressed envelope that will come to your home. Get this taken care of. You'll feel so much better when you get this taken care of. In here also some decals for your car. You just never know when that's going to come in handy. And then what's going to come to your home separately is going to be a packet with your ID cards in it, just like I've showed you, additional will questionnaires with a pre-addressed envelope to your law firm so we can get that taken advantage of and get that value right away. And then also for those of you that are enrolling in the identity theft portion, you're going to get electronic email that allows you to go in and download your get your credit report and score and authorize to start that monitoring. Does that make sense? I see several of you are filling that out. I got my assistant, John, in the back of the room. He's going to be giving you the temporary package as well. We'll give you your pink copy, and that way we can get right on our way. Okay, now I'm going to stop for 1 second. That's actually the end of the enrollment. I want to take your objections. So, okay, let me stand up right up here. Let me take the objections here. All right. So that was my full enrollment. And now, absolutely. So I know you guys, he's awesome. I love Cliff Lanoy. But yeah, we definitely, for those of you on this side of the room, thanks for hanging in there with me with the focus here. So we're going to have it now. I've just finished this, especially for those of you who've been in enrollments before. You know what the typical questions are. At this point, I just want you to give me the objections. I'm going to come back at you with how I would handle in an actual enrollment situation. So you had a question in the back. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do we have to fill this out right now?
What's your name?
Bayan.
Ben?
Yes.
Ben, that's a great question.
Close. Bayan.
Ban.
Yes.
Ban. That's a great question. You said at the beginning, what we're doing is collecting the paperwork today so that you can take this whole packet home and share it with your family. If it's something that I don't want anybody to get a plan that they don't want. I don't want anybody to get a plan that they don't see a value in. But if you're like me and you go to take stuff home and you put it in your to-do pile, it doesn't come back. We want to make sure you have the protection. Does that make sense? And that way you can take it home and share it with your spouse.
I'm not married. I was just asking.
Okay. Can
I turn it in Monday, though?
Tell you what you do. Now, what I would do, I'm sorry, I have to go around the camera here. What I do in a situation like that, if it's general like that, and someone says, do I have to send it in today, even though we said we're going to collect the paperwork, and they want to think about it or whatever, the first statement that comes out of my mouth, this is just me, I don't want anybody to get the plan that doesn't see a value in it. Mm-hmm. But if you do see a value in it, would you ask you to fill the paperwork out? Again, I give them the reason why. If you're like me, I take it home. I have every intention to bring it back. We don't. And I've gotten calls for people who have needed the service and didn't have it. So if you see the value, what I do is I hold the paperwork for 2 days, and I let them know that. So that question I can answer from the front of the room. I'm gonna, like if today was Wednesday, I say, I'm going to hang on to this paperwork until Friday anyways. If you take it home for whatever reason, you and your family doesn't want to make this decision, let me know. I won't even process it. After it, this isn't like a wireless where you have to have contracts with it. If you're not happy with the service or you don't need the service, you can actually just opt out at any time. Just let your payroll department know. But I am going to say this. If you think about the thousands of dollars that we spend on insurances, and we really don't want to use them. No one wants to wreck their car. No one wants to get sick. No one wants to have a flood in their house. This is something we can literally spend pennies a day for, and we can actually use it. And that's the thing. It's not, I don't want something you to get something you don't want, but I want to make sure if you do get the plan that you're going to use it. Okay? And if we get think about it. If we get a flat tire, we don't get a flat tire in a year. We don't get rid of our spare, do we? So even though you can opt out at any time, you want to make sure you think about the things that you would start using this for on a regular basis. So there's two ways that I answer that question, Van, to get back to you on that. It's if it's a general and I'm like this and it's a bigger group and I just have to answer the question, I always do the threefold approach to me is I don't want you to get the plan if you don't want it, if you don't see a value in it. However, the reason why we ask for the paperwork, and I tell them the reason why, and that is true. That does happen. If they're uncomfortable, or even if I pick up on their body language, if they aren't going anywhere, I will get a little bit closer, and I will say, if you were the one that just said, I would say, you know what, can you get that into Betty by Friday? I'll get closer to the person, and I will say that, because I do not want them to feel uncomfortable. Because you know the people that are, I ain't signing anything until, I'm not going to lose the whole group over somebody that's just, hey, if they're uncomfortable with it, I don't want them to do that. I don't want to come off high pressure. That's not my style. People think I'm crazy for starting out with saying I don't want anybody to get this plan that doesn't see a value in it. But the reality is, folks, I don't want anybody to get this plan that doesn't see a value in it, and you shouldn't either, because it's going to affect your residual income as well. And if you've done a good job of articulating that value, and you still have somebody that has apprehension, then I always have two things set up. Number one, if we're not collecting the paperwork that day, or I'm collecting the paperwork, I will get a second time frame. For example, I've met with Betty in payroll, and I know that she's okay with them turning it in by Friday. I don't want to have stuff lingering out there for long periods of time, but I'll have that date so I'm not stumbling for it. So I'll say, well, like if today's Wednesday, tell you what, I'm holding all paperwork until Friday anyways. I just make that a practice. And by the way, if you're going to do that, make sure you do it. I'm very, very big on making sure that you do that. I don't care if it's the end of the month and you need points or whatever. If I tell people I'm going to hold their paperwork to a certain date, I do. Now, 2 days is all I'm giving them because they either know they want it or they don't. And typically, if you will address someone and let them know and assure them, number one, that they have an opt-out clause. Number two, that they can take this home and share it with their family. And if they want out, they simply have to call me. It gives them the ease of participating without you seeing, and you're not being high pressured. The reason we want to collect the paperwork is we all know why. Typically, if they take it home, they have every intention to bring it back, but many times they don't. So if we can avoid that, we do. Or if you're working out of state and you're going back and forth. I like to avoid having applications in the mail. I don't like to have that type of stuff going on. So if I can get the paperwork at a given time, I do. If not, then I have a secondary set date where they have to turn it in. Now, it's all about what the employer has agreed to. If you're doing a presentation and this isn't going to be effective till September 1st and they've got 2 weeks to fill it out, then that's what the program is. But I will say, for those of you that are filling out today, make sure they get the temporary member packet. You can actually get started on your will right away. And for those of you who actually have a question for an attorney, you can call them today. Let them know that you've just enrolled to your employer. You can have immediate access. There's a lot of people that will turn their paperwork in even if they don't have to turn it in for a week. Okay? Some other objections. Yes?
My spouse doesn't live with me, but he needs this plan. So what do I do?
Your spouse doesn't live with you. Your spouse is covered in the plan.
Even if he's at a different address?
That's a good question. You know what? What is your name?
Bobby.
Bobby, you know what? Can you see me afterwards? I'll get that answer for you before we leave today.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I've never had that as an objection, but that's okay.
Hi, Lisa. My name is John, and you've talked about a lot of great benefits this afternoon. I make $14 an hour. I live paycheck to paycheck. Our insurance benefits are going up here at work. The company froze our raises for this year. And it's tough for me to even sit here and contemplate trying to pay $3.98 a week, $5.98 a week. How do I measure the return on my investment?
That's a great question, John. And again, I can totally appreciate everyone being prudent about their money and being concerned about their finances. It's really a very personal decision for you and your family. I look at it like this. If you don't have your current will, if you see the value and you've had challenges, you've had struggles, where you could have those resolved by an attorney, but we're certainly not in a position to pay $250 an hour for an attorney. If you have moving traffic violations, again, those are things that's going to cost you more money. If you see that value because it's going to far out exceed what you're already paying out in these other things that are going on in life, if you see that and that makes sense for you, then go ahead and sign up. But totally appreciate the position that you're in. It's $3.68 a week. That's 52 cents a day. But you know what, John? That's your 52 cents a day. So that's a decision that you really need to make a determination if that's going to be for you and your family.
I have identity theft protection through my bank, so I don't need to have your all's correct.
Go ahead and ask the question again so we can hear it.
I have my identity theft protection through my bank, so I really don't need to have that from you guys, right?
And what was your name?
Timmer.
Timmer, that's a great question. First of all, I applaud you for being proactive and protecting your family with identity theft protection. But like I said in the presentation, so much of what we might have through a financial institution, through an insurance company, through our homeowners plan, is really more credit related and deal with credit matters, which is fantastic. But this program being more robust as it is, covering all the different types of identity theft and actually doing the restoration on your behalf. So you might want to take a look at that to see if that's going to be a bigger value for you and outweigh it about what you might have at home. If that just covers financial, where this covers all forms of identity theft, and you're dealing with a company that's been doing it for 40 years, it actually does that restoration for you, and that might be that value for you and your family.
Sign me up.
Okay?
No, Lisa, I like everything I heard, but quite frankly, I've just never used an attorney before. I just don't want to waste my money.
Absolutely. And your name? Kathy, that's a great, great question. None of us want to waste money. Plan is designed specifically to do things. Now, at the beginning, I said, we make decisions, and you can just answer these questions. You make decisions professionally, financially, and personally for your family every year, correct? All right. So if you see a value in having access to an attorney help you, now we haven't used an attorney before, not because we couldn't have benefited from an attorney. When you think about consumer challenges, you think back to the last consumer challenge you might have had. How frustrating was that? Where did that leave you? Those types of things. Moving traffic violations, those increase costs. This plan is designed to help save money, help make you better decisions for your family, and have that peace of mind. So if you see that value, then that would be something that you make a decision on having that value and participating in the plan. Yes?
Hi, Lisa. My husband is considering moving. He's been given an offer at another state, so I'm really concerned if I take this benefit at this point, how would it affect me if I ended up leaving this company and moving on with my husband? How could we continue with this package?
That's a great question. This plan is what we call fully portable. That means you can enroll today for the special group rate that you have, and if you were to leave your employer here for any reason, you could take the same rate and the same plan with you. That's a great question.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Brock. I had a company that I was with before, and we had a plan that was something like this before, but they didn't cover you when you went to court or anything like that. It was called prepaid legal. Is this like that?
Well, this company formerly was Prepaid Legal, is now Legal Shield, so we have new ownership. We're Legal Shield, not Prepaid Legal. And there are different areas of the plan, like I explained the two different areas of the plan, where about 80-90% of what we use is covered at no additional price. And then there's things outside of that area that are going to be covered at a discounted rate. And one of those areas where it might be maybe child custody or a divorce or bankruptcy or something like that. So the difference there is when you call into your law firm, they can consult with you, they can review documentation, they can write letters on your behalf. If it's something you need to retain them to go to court in those areas, then you're not going to be paying 100% price for it. You're going to be getting 25% off. Yes.
How do I know that on this discounted attorney thing that you aren't just jacking the prices up 25%? I'm just paying with the regular prices anyway.
That's a great question. That's a really good question. Well, because of the way that this is set up, because we're the firm's largest customer and our referral attorneys inside that network as well, we're very large customers to them. It's not going to be in their best interest to not serve our clients well, because we can change that attorney. So if we're using an attorney, one of our provider law firms, or even a referral attorney, they're under obligation and contractual to make sure that we get that 25% discount. If for some reason you feel that you're not receiving that, we certainly have a recourse to investigate that and find that out. But it's not in their best interest to not handle, because they're not just getting one or two people. They're getting hundreds of people, thousands of people in some cases to take care of. So it is in their very best interest to take care of our customers and treat them well. But we do have a process in place in the event you have a question of that nature. Yes?
If this doesn't work out for me, how do I cancel this, or can I cancel it?
You can cancel that at any time just by letting Betty and payroll know that you want to opt out. But again, I just want to give you a word of caution if you're going to be opting out. Number one, make sure you've taken advantage of getting the will done. And again, do that evaluation for you and your family. We pay thousands of dollars for insurances that we don't typically want to use. And this is something that's 50 cents a day or 85 cents a day if you take both plans. And it's something we actually can use. What I don't want to have happen is, I've had this happen to several people that have come up to me and said, I canceled my plan last year and then I got a traffic ticket. Or I canceled my plan and then I had this issue. So the thing is while this gives us things that we can utilize right away, there's also something called peace of mind in there. Because a lot of things as we go through life, we can't predict what's going to happen. So this is something that's in place for those things that we don't know when our next traffic ticket will be. We don't know if someone's going to sue us. We don't know if we're going to be audited. We don't know if we're going to have some of the consumer challenges. So that's where that peace of mind comes in. Even though you're not technically using the plan, you really are using the plan because you're allowed to worry less and live more. Okay, I'm going to take, because we have to wrap up here. Did you have another objection? Okay, we can take a couple questions before we end here.
I'm just
curious when I read this sheet here
Yes.
and it says unlimited personal or business advice on an unlimited number of issues.
Yes.
We still get unlimited business advice, correct?
Yes, we do. And interestingly enough, Timur, they in some in that particular piece it does say it, but it doesn't say it in some of the brochures. But the family plan is what we're using in the enrollment here. Does have unlimited advice on unlimited number of matters for both personal. So if someone owns a business or has a side business, that is in there. Now in the enrollment process, you typically don't have time to get into those details, but they didn't take it away from the plan. It's just not in some of the collateral, but it is in that piece.
I thought it was 2.
No, the advice is unlimited.
Okay.
Your contract and document review, the letters that they'll write for you is you have 1 contract and document review per calendar year and 2 letter writing per calendar year on a business. Yes.
Which one?
Just shout them out, guys, because we're wrapping up
I just
here.
have a real quick question on the application form.
Yes.
And you give them 3 choices. They get just the legal plan or both with the ID theft and add the children. How do you document that? Do you write it in? Do you stamp it? What do you do so that they can just go make it easy? So, because a confused mind does nothing.
Absolutely. Now, some people, if they're using these 2-page applications, they'll just have a mark at the top. I always will just reiterate what that employer is offering. Some employers just have 1 package deal. You get both plans. They don't have to mark anything. I do the paperwork for them. I have a stamp that I actually put on mine that says legal, IDT, or both, so they know. But whatever, even if you're going to use this one, then you'll have a mark it as you're going through it. But whatever you do, whatever the options were, that's what you want to stick with. Because some offer safeguarding providers, some don't. Some combine the plans together. Now we've got a premium product. I just had my first group that actually offered the standard and the premium together. So get a little bit more complicated as far as options. New stamp, yes, absolutely. But that's a great question. We're going to need to wrap it up here. Any other last?
Quick question. If you're not doing payroll deduct, if you're doing bank draft, when you close, how do you direct them to put their financial information in the application?
Yeah, if it's a bank draft, it's a whole different animal. Number 1 is how I promote the meeting is very, very important. Making sure that they understand it's going through their personal finances so they're prepared to have that information there. And I let them know credit card or bank draft. It's going to be on the flyer. It's going to be promoted that way so they're prepared. So at the end of the meeting, I have them put their personal information, and I let them know what the 2 payment options are and that they fill that information out. Absolutely. But if you're going to have a bank draft, make sure you promote it as one, because you'll have people in the meeting that don't have their checkbooks with them and they're not prepared to do that. Some people don't do bank drafts. Some people do. I will tell you this. I mean, the participation is typically higher when you have a payroll deduction because it's the ease of and it's a smaller denomination. But bank drafts are very high persistency. So we just did one. John did a rollout with a company. And John, what was your participation on a bank draft? I mean, it was very high. About between 40 and 50% on a bank draft for participation is actually, it was very, very high. He only had a few minutes at the meeting, but it was well. It goes back to my last logistics meeting. It was well promoted of what that meeting was. Let me run through these last couple things really quick. Paperwork, we already talked about that. Working with other associates, the deadlines and the plan effective dates. Again, it's what you agreed with the employer. That's what we're going to say. If the employer says they cannot opt out except during open enrollment, then that's what you say. If the employer says they have 2 weeks to make up their mind, then that's what you're going to make the decision and say. So you always want to communicate with the client. Remember who your client is. It's the company, not the member. It's the company. And working with other associates. When I'm in a room like this, I'll have a couple of other associates. I make sure that everybody has a vanilla envelope. I'm very, very cautious with people's personal information. We all need to be. We just did a presentation on identity theft. We just told them, and you don't want to have people where you're just ripping their applications apart and their social security number is there, right? I always make sure that everything is face down. These are just simple things. That an application is face down. That when I'm tearing something off and when it comes in, I fold it this way after I give them their copy. And I always have the associates that are working with me. Everybody's got an envelope. It goes right in the envelope and they get their temporary kit. And there's no, working on paperwork in the lobby of a company or at some public place where people can see this information. We're under the same rules and regulations as any business. We can't misplace information either. So we need to be careful with this. There's just all kinds of stories out there about, misplaced information. We're no exception to the rule. We need to take very, very good care. Be respectful and be very, very careful with the security of these documents. Now, I don't know about you, but these need to be under lock and key. If you're not going to be submitting them immediately, I don't even keep my yellow copies. Once I've reconciled it, I shred them. I don't want personal information in my office That's just, you can run your business like you want, but when you're working with other associates, make sure they've got something, because I'll tell you, it's happened to me more often than not, where I'll be there and someone will have an application like this, sitting like this. And people are lining up to turn their application in, or you're talking to somebody and you've forgotten and now it's sitting right there. Just having something as simple as an envelope and the people that you're working with. If I'm going to work a room like this, they're going to be stationed in the corners. They're going to have a stack of temporary member kits. And as soon as people start filling out that information, that temporary packet goes down. They get the pink copy, and the remainder goes in here. I worry about the paperwork later because I want to protect their privacy. Or if you're working with another associate, then you want to make sure that you do that stuff outside of that. Be respectful of their time, respectful of their private property. Okay? Is that it? That is a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much. Woo-hoo!